Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I speak about different topics in my channel. So if you like listening to different topics, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell so you can be notified every time I upload. So today, if y'all watched my video yesterday, I said that I was going to speak about another missing adult case today. The case that I'm going to be speaking about, I actually got it from a podcast called Lost and Found. I will leave their information in the description below. So everything that I am reading about this case is coming from their website. So we're gonna be talking about, and they have different cases that they talk about. I just came across it. So today we're gonna be talking about the case of Ludger, Belanger, Hunter or Hunted. So let's go ahead and get started. So this case the case that I'm going to be talking about today is both bizarre and senseless. How does a hunter go deer hunting a mile from his home and disappear, never to be seen again? The clues at the scene would tell a very chilling story. Let's talk about Ludger Belanger. Ludger Belanger grew up in Michigan Falls and Maine into a big family that included 8 siblings. In high school, Ludger, nicknamed Ludger, would move with his family to Washington, Minnesota shortly after high school in 1971. Ludger would marry his high school sweetheart Linda, and they would start a family. In 1975, by the time he was 25 and Linda was 20, they were already the parents of 3 little girls. Ludger worked as a heavy equipment mechanic, and Linda had recently started working at an early restaurant. By all accounts, they were a loving family. Ludger was described as a devoted father and a kind person. However, like many young couples, there was financial struggle raising a family of 5. In the morning of November 25th of 1975, just 2 days before Thanksgiving, Ludger and Linda Lunger's brother John went out earlier that morning hunting. The goal, of course, was to find a deer to help feed their family. Though the winter, after no luck, Linda and John headed home. Linda had a job she had to get ready for. Ludger had asked to be dropped off at the top of a hill near their home to continue the hunt for a deer. Because of the snow that had just fallen, he would be driving Linda to her job that day. Ludger told his wife he would be back home in an hour. She watched him walk across the fields carrying a hunting rifle and wearing a black and red plaid jacket, green pants, and boots, and an orange hat. That was the last time she would ever see her husband. While this case isn't widely publicized as I wish it was, there are a few articles out there about it, as well as a few podcasts that talk about the case. The podcast A Dark Down East, Locating the Lost in the Mystery Machine. There's also a book that devotes an entire chapter to Ludger's Belanger story titled Open Season, True Story of the Maine Warden Survived by Darren Waterster. Most importantly, I want to thank Linda Belanger, now Patrick, for speaking with me about the case. She's such a kind and gracious woman who is still waiting to do anything to get her husband's case out there. I also want to direct everyone to the Facebook page, Justice for Ludger Belanger. It is run by the Ludger family, and it's a great source of information on this case. When an hour and the 2 passed, Linda began to worry. Ludger knew she would have needed a ride to her job, and of course, he was never at one to leave the family without a reason. The family began their own search, and people with their own snowmobiles would try to find him, calling his name. Soon after, he was known to be missing, and the Maine game wardens came out and took over the search. The Maine State Police were also notified. Linda Belanger, who knew something was really wrong. She became very upset and was even hospitalized that night due to the stress. She told me she doesn't even remember being brought home later that night. She was in such a state. The Maine game warden continued to search tirelessly for Lurch. They searched all night, knocking on doors to see if anyone had seen anything. They finally had success. A nearly neighbor named Carlton Crossy said he had watched Ludger out his kitchen window walk into the woods that day. He even offered to help Vernon look and would show them where he had last seen missing Hunter. They discovered tracks along the bridge, as well as a 230 cartridge. They also found the guts of a deer. The skirmish left behind told them Ludger had apparently shot a big buck and had cleaned it there. It appears he had gotten the largest deer he wanted to feed his family. Though the winter, even though there has been snow the day before Ludger went missing, as well as after he went missing, the Warners were able to find a lot of information in the snow tracks that were left behind. It appears by the main warden's investigation, rejecting the snow tracks, that after Ludger had shot the deer, he had walked his gun ahead and rested on a tree. They believe he then went back to drag the deer to a near toad road, Grimer Lot Road. It was a quarter of a mile away, but drivable. The next set of clues, however, proved to be very disturbing. It appears by the tire tracks found at the scene that a car pulled into where Ludger had dragged the deer. They were all able to see where they were two males who got out of this vehicle, driver and passenger side. One had a cane and apparently had an injured left foot that had dragged his sideways. The two men then apparently united in the snow and discarded their cigarettes butts and beer cans. The man on the driver's side was snow walking to the gun where Ludger had put it and put it in his vehicle. They then can tell that the driver helped Ludger rode the deer into the truck. Ludger got in the back seat and the vehicle left. Another clue left accidentally at the scene would prove to be the best lead in this case. In the car tracks in the snow, a receipt had blown out of the car. It was from Sully Garage in Union, approximately 13 miles from the scene of the tire tracks, and was dated the same day Ludger had disappeared. The warden's then went to the garage to question the owner about the car that had been there the day prior. He had a very bizarre story to tell. He said that the vehicle was a green 1965 Berkey Special. They were two males in the car. They would be referred to as Suspect A and Suspect B intentionally. The owner said that they had arrived at 9 a.m. and the driver demanded that they work on his leaking radiator right then and there. He referred to the occupants as half-baked. He said that they told them they couldn't work on it and they then came back at 2 p.m. even more drunk driver upon to the platform. They were streamed everywhere, and once again the driver demanded that they work on it. They said that they had been hunting that day and that there was shotgun in the seat between them. The mechanic fixed the car as best as he could. The two men were on the way. The main warden then decided to go to the Suspect A house to question him. They had found several disturbing things that made them suspicious. On their initial visit, they found a shotgun that had been recently cleaned, a hacksaw with some unknown residue on it, and a small room in the basement with a padlock on it. The most interesting thing they saw, however, was a package of fresh deer meat in the refrigerator. Even though he had told the warden he had not been hunting, the warden left to go get a search warrant and further go through the unhoused. Unfortunately, when they arrived back with this, Suspect A was having a party. Anything of question that had now been removed, as well as the padlock from the basement room. Another very strange thing was now taped on Suspect A freezer is a newspaper article about Ludger Blessing's disappearance. Not long after Ludger's disappearance, another disturbing discovery was made. The brick special driven by the Suspect A and B that they found abandoned on a resident road. The inside of the vehicle seemed to tell a grisly tale. The rear seafloor mats and part of the wind liner were all missing. The back window of the car was missing, and the trunk that was storm small of cleaner. The Sprite tire and uncertainty were gone. There also appeared to be a deer hair in the trunk, a buckshot pellet, and a bear hair hanging from the pellet. However, the FBI lab results were found to be inconclusive on the bred hair. After the brutal winter was finally gone, the warden service organized a huge search for Ludger. The last week involving caver dogs, plants, and drivers. Sadly, no trace of Ludger's birth was found nor clues to his whereabouts. So Suspect A was eventually found out to be David Savinian. Unfortunately, he wouldn't be around long after Ludger's disappearance to continue to be questioned. In fact, this proved to be almost as bizarre as Ludger's disappearance. The end of July of 1976, just 7 months after Ludger's disappearance, Savigesen was in his house when it was blown up. In fact, the blast was so powerful, it blew him through the front door 10 to 13 feet from the house. It is widely believed by what was left behind that Davison is responsible for creating the explosion either to kill his wife or for insurance purpose, or possibly both. He's reported that he had brought a round-trip ticket to Orlando, so he would be gone during the blast. They said he filled the bathtub with gasoline and lit a candle with a fuse. However, the gas refrigerator was thought to have triggered the explosion permanently. His wife was upstairs doing this, but was able to jump from a second-story window to escape major injury. Davidson, however, was severely burned and transferred to the burn center in Texas. He died 11 days later before investigators could go to the hospital to question him on a final time. I'm sorry, if I was his wife and I saw you trying to blow me and you inside my house and I jumped out the window, when you die, baby, bye. Good riddance. Because you think I was going to cry for you after I find out you about to blow me? Because you done something that you don't want me to find out? I was smart. Yes, I jumped out the window. I probably broke a leg and an arm. But no. Let's keep doing. This case is crazy. Suspect Biz in this case is known to be Danny Collins Jr. He is the person who in the car was registered to that was found where Ludger Belanger was last known to be. He's also thought to be a passenger in the car that day in 1977. A friend of Collins, only referred to as Chris, reported to the police that Danny Collins Jr. had confessed to him while they were partying. He said that Danny said that they had lured Ludger into the car with the intent on stealing the deer. He said Danny Svinginson and Danny Collins Jr. told Ludger that they were keeping the deer as a shipping and handling feed. He said Ludger Belanger saying he needed to feed his family and asked to be let out of the car. Danny then lowered the barrel of the shotgun over the seat and pulled the trigger, murdering Ludger Belanger. Chris died shortly after his confession with the police of a drug overdose. The only person alive who is a suspect in Ludger's disappearance is Danny Collins Jr., who still lives in Maine. He refused to speak on the case. The police had been unhelpful and downright rude at times to Linda's Belanger and Perkins in regard to Ludger's case. They have threatened many people who want to work on even filmed about the case with an arrest. According to Linda, a retired FBI couple had wanted to work on the Ludger's case, but were threatened with an arrest for hindering an investigation. And wasn't hard enough for Ludger's family, Linda, who still lives in the house she shared with Ludger many years ago, suffered a fire in 1981. It was just 6 years after her husband's disappearance, and the fire was very extensive. She was able to rebuild, but sadly she did lose most of the pictures of her husband. And on June 2021, a Linda's Belanger Pickering request a Knox Country property court judge did declare Ludger Belanger dead. Based on the alleged search for family, the Maine Warning Service and the Maine State Police over a period of 26 years. Sadly, Ludger Belanger's case has since grown cold. However, there was a very interesting discovery in April 2020. A man was doing some digging in some property he owned that was just half a mile from where Ludger Belanger was known to have been that day. It was a pair of green Dickies work pants like Ludger was wearing that day. It was buried along with the rope. Linda was asked to view the pants. They were, of course, somewhat decorated with the ears in the ground. However, Linda did say that they looked like a size that Ludger would have worn. The rope buried with the pants was something Linda said Ludger would always carry with him when he was hunting. As far as Linda knows, the pants were sent off for the further testing, but she hasn't been made aware of the result. Ludger Belanger went nothing more that day than to kill a deer to feed his family for the season. Imagine how happy he probably was to have accomplished this, only to have his life senselessly cut short, an obviously senseless act of violence. I also want to share a very touching photo that Linda had given me permission to share. It just goes to show how far-reaching these missing person cases affect people. Not just the people who actually knew him, but the generation to come who could never get the chance to know him. Ludger's young grandson had a doubt heart about the grandfather he will never get to meet. He went to a picture of him. Linda brought the young boy a picture of him to church one day. The boy was so happy to have a picture of his grandfather and hugged it, and I'm told even sleeps with it. Such a sweet yet heartbreaking picture. Ludger and his grandson Ludger Belanger, who was only trying to provide for his family that day by being a hunter. He could have never imagined that in the end he would be hunted. I will not show the picture in here just because it's not something I'm not gonna do. That is, he got permission. This guy got permission. I didn't get permission from the family, but I will write the website. And this story to me really hurts me. And one, because as a detective, your job is to keep the family updated on anything. Your job is to want to have more help. The more help you have with the FBI or if you have crews, newspaper, newsletter, news stations, whatever type of news that you can get this story out, that should be good for you. You should not threaten somebody who's trying to help this mother, this wife, this family to help and figure out what happened to this husband. All he wanted was to feed his kids, his family, and y'all act like it's something bad, because no, the more help y'all get from people, the better. And it sucks that the family has to be the one to do it because y'all don't want to do anything. This is the reason why I do what I do, and I do it with missing kids and I do it with missing adults, because these stories need to keep out there. We need to keep these stories out there to find answer for this family. And I'm really sorry, and I really do hope that we find answers. And I hope that this family finds answer, and we need it. We, especially not us, but I think the family needs it. Needs it more than anything. He could have met his grandkids. He could have seen, he could have walked his girls to, walk her down the aisle. But some cold-hearted person decided that that's not what they wanted to do. A cold-hearted people wanted to steal a deer from another man that was trying to feed his family. Instead of them hunting a deer themselves, they had to hunt him like he was an animal. When he wasn't an animal, he was a husband, a father. He was a brother. He was an amazing person, and they took that away from the family, and they took him away too soon. So guys, that is it for today. I hope you have a good Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow with a new video.